I've run it so many times here on Earth, I could guarantee it's going to work. You fly it there, it's going to work. Now at Non, we flew it there, and what do you think it found?
It worked. It found that the soil was gassing.
Yes, it did. Here's the other investigator, Patricia Ann Stratt. The two of them adapted this for the Viking mission, and hell yeah, it found life. Not
So,
once, but twice
yeah.
on two different sides of the planet.
Wow. So breaking news is Mars farts.
Mars parts, that's right. Okay. It's as simple as that. Now, Adnan, why did they not break out the champagne and start celebrating? This is back in 1976. Why have we heard ever since then that there's no evidence for life on Mars? You know, uh, there was.
I feel like NASA and the answer to that question is that NASA has or the media or whoever it is I want to point finger at is somehow they've created this unrealistic idea that we're looking for something that looks like human and it's an alien, and that is the definition of life instead of look at this and using some very simple way of communicating these messages like Mars farts, which means there is life, and the life is actually in all these little microbial things that are in us as humans, which is very similar to what's on Mars, right? But I guess the visual senses of what makes us human has led us this idea that for most people, the definition of life is someone that can speak and has hands that can gesture. It comes in the form of this matter that we get to experience and feel and see. I think a lot of it has to do with that sort of concept of how we consume media and what grabs our attention.
Yes, there is a little bit of that going on for sure. Excuse me. Especially as it relates to this UFO stuff, when we're like, oh, these are strange looking things in the sky. They don't operate like normal aircraft would, and so we don't really understand it. But excuse me, with Mars in 1976, we're only talking about little tiny microbes, totally non-scary. you know, the problem was in 1976, aboard each one of these Viking landers, they included another experiment. NASA was like, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second, because they had another experiment called the gas chromatograph mass spectrometer, which was designed to look for organic matter in the soil, and it did not find any organic matter in the soil. And what the heck is organic matter? Well, think about the leaves. Well, maybe your seasons are different down there, but here we have the fall season. All the leaves are falling down off the trees and dying and decaying. Okay, all of that dead leaf plant matter is organic matter that will eventually biodegrade and go into the soil, so you have organic matter in the soil. Well, they didn't find any of that in 1976 on the surface of Mars. The question is why? Well, it turns out that the test that they used to look for organic matter in the soil was not sensitive enough to actually find that organic matter in the soil. It wasn't even good enough to find organic matter in the soil of Antarctica, and they knew that, but they sent it anyway. And so I guess the question that NASA was struggling with was, how do you have life, a positive life result, but without any organic matter? You kind of need both of them. So they scratched their heads and they're like, well, the life test results are inconclusive. And then later they just revised that and said there's no evidence. Well, there's one big problem with that. The Curiosity rover, we all know these cute little rovers that they sent there. The Curiosity rover, it found the organic matter in the soil. So this whole concept of no organic matter in the soil is dead wrong. at this point. But our question is, why hasn't NASA gone back to those results and revisited them and relitigated them with the public and have educated and updated textbooks and things like that? They just stuck with that original narrative in spite of new information coming in. So in addition to that, the Curiosity rover also found an organic substance known as dimethyl sulfide. Dimethyl sulfide is excuse me, it is it's an organic substance, and only microbes produce it. You go on NASA's website today, and even they have this on their website. We only know dimethyl sulfide to be produced by microbes. And for those people who are familiar with the James Webb Space Telescope, it looks at exoplanets light years away, and sometimes it looks into the atmospheres of these exoplanets. And sometimes you'll see a headline in your news feed that says NASA finds life in atmosphere of exoplanet 5 light years away. And what are they looking for? They're looking for dimethyl sulfide. So if they're using this as a strong biosignature to look for life in exoplanets and atmospheres of exoplanets, yet we have this here on Mars, why are we not making a bigger deal about this? We've got it right there. But they don't want to talk about this for some reason. Another thing they don't want to talk about is the fact that they published an abstract. NASA, a NASA scientist, Dr. Carol Stoker, who still works there today, published an abstract, and she was only allowed to publish an abstract about how, through the use of spectroscopy, she found chlorophyll. Now, everybody remembers chlorophyll from our high school biology class, plants. So, maybe it's not strong evidence, but it's still evidence. And my question is, why haven't we followed up on that? Here's something else, a little bit more less understood, but there's something called rock varnish, also known as desert varnish. It's this black coating. You can see these rocks, but it's got this hard black coating on there, okay? This black coating is made by microbes. Something like they ingest manganese and produce this black coating over centuries of time, just black coating, black coating, black coating. And it's got this shiny varnish look, all right? But this is a product of microbial activity. And here we see it on Earth. And guess what? Well, this is my friend Barry DiGregorio. He's the one who clued me in onto this, and he's got a book, Mars the Living Planet, that talks a lot about this stuff. But here we see rock varnish on Earth, and we also see it on Mars, this black coating. Now, this isn't really sexy stuff, but you do have a team of scientists who are affiliated with NASA who have published research papers on this rock varnish. And they are of the position that this is not produced by life. And when they publish their papers, they are saying, yes, we acknowledge there's rock varnish on Mars, but we think it's being produced by some yet undetermined mechanism. We don't know how it's being produced. And I'm like, guys, it's biology. Are you kidding? Like, why are you bending over backwards to try to find a non-biological explanation? It doesn't make any sense. So, Adnan, these are photographs. And in the court of law, photographs are admissible as evidence. We have photographic evidence of microbial life. That counts. That's evidence. For those astrobiologists who say there's absolutely no evidence, that's not true. And I'd also like to go back and revisit the difference between the word evidence and the word proof. Evidence means suggestive of. Proof means conclusive of. People confuse these terms, but they don't exactly mean the same thing. So, anyway, that's my little thing on microbes. So the point is, they want to talk about leopard spots and instead of all this other stuff here. And I'm like, leopard spots is like such nothing compared to this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, why are they doing this? Why are they not talking about the exciting stuff? And that That is always the fascinating question. Is it because they're trying to hide something, or they're just not competent, or it's just bureaucratic, political mess, or it's, they're not focused, they don't have the right direction, leadership, or it's just the age of, information media we live in today, that, the right information is not coming through. Yeah, I'm not too sure what it is.
I think the possibility of upending current established paradigms on this planet, whether they be institutional or religious, rather, because it's all institutional at some point, academic institutions, religious institutions, government institutions.